All right, let's dive into a piece of technology that really changed the game for database security, something that solved a huge scaling problem that pretty much every big company was facing. We're talking about Oracle's Virtual Private Database, or VPD. You'll see this was a big deal. So I want you to imagine it's the late 90s. Your business is just exploding. You've got more data, more employees, more customers than you ever dreamed of. And this one question is keeping you up at night. How do you control who sees what data down to the specific row without having to tear apart and rewrite every single application that connects to your database? It was a massive, high-stakes problem. And this wasn't just some small technical hurdle. No, this was a full-blown crisis in how you scale data access. The old ways of managing security permissions, they just completely fell apart when faced with the complexity of a modern, growing enterprise. Something totally new was needed. I mean, just think about it for a second. A sales rep in Europe should only see European customer records, right? A manager in HR should be able to see salary info, but only for their own team. Before, you'd have to hard code all those rules into every single application. Now, multiply that by thousands of users and hundreds of apps. What you end up with is an absolute maintenance nightmare of brittle, duplicated code, and honestly, a ton of security holes just waiting to be found. This is the moment Oracle stepped onto the scene with a truly revolutionary idea. They thought, instead of trying to build all these security walls around the data in all these different applications, what if we built the security into the data itself? And their answer was the Virtual Private Database. The core idea here is just ingenious. See, VPD isn't some separate product you have to buy and install. It's a feature that's baked right into the Oracle database engine. And the way it works is by letting you attach security policies directly to the data tables themselves. This means the rules live with the data, not in the dozens of different apps that are trying to get to it. Oracle really had three critical goals when they designed this. First, they wanted to control access down to the individual row of data. Second, and this was the absolute game changer, they wanted to do it without forcing customers to go back and rewrite all their existing software. And third, it had to be rock solid enough for industries with intense compliance needs, like finance, healthcare, and government, where security isn't just a good idea, it's the law. Okay, so we know why they built it, but how does VPD actually work under the hood? How can a database show two different people completely different results from the exact same query? Let's break down the mechanics.
The whole process is just beautifully simple. So first, a security administrator defines a policy, a set of rules, and attaches it to a table. Let's say it's the employees table. Then, a regular user runs a totally normal query, like select star from employees. Now here's the magic. The database engine intercepts that query. It automatically and completely transparently adds a secret filter, a where clause, based on who that user is. The end result? The user sees only the specific rows they're allowed to see, and they never, ever know that any filtering happened behind the scenes.
So this elegant process is really built on a few key technical pillars. It's policy-based, which means all your security logic is in one central, manageable place. The filtering is dynamic and happens right at the row level. The enforcement is, crucially, completely transparent to both the end user and the application. And finally, because it's integrated with PL/SQL, you could write incredibly sophisticated custom business rules to handle pretty much any security scenario you could think of. Now, VPD wasn't just a one-and-done feature that Oracle released and forgot about. Not at all. It was actually the start of a pretty long journey. Over the next 2 decades, it evolved from just a clever feature into a cornerstone of Oracle's entire security philosophy. And this timeline really tells the story. It all started back in 1999 with Oracle 8i, which established that core row-level security. Then, through versions 9i and 10G, it got a lot more sophisticated, integrating with things like label security and enterprise identity systems. By the time 11G came around, the focus had shifted to performance, auditing, and making sure it worked seamlessly in these massive, clustered environments. And today, well, the core principles of VPD are pretty much the foundation for Oracle's entire unified data security strategy. So, when we look back, what's the real legacy of VPD? It's much bigger than just a single feature. What it really represents is a fundamental shift, a true paradigm shift in how we even think about protecting our data. Its lasting impact really comes down to 3 things. First, by centralizing all the security logic inside the database itself, it made security consistent, reliable, and way easier to manage. Second, that in turn just drastically simplified application development. All of a sudden, developers could focus on building cool features instead of constantly reinventing security rules for every new app. And third, for Oracle, it really cemented their reputation as the database for organizations that simply could not afford a data breach. And that really gets to the heart of its influence. It's perfectly captured in this quote. VPD wasn't just a feature, it was a philosophy. It was a whole new way of thinking about where security should live and how it should work. And that philosophy, it's so simple, but so profound. Security belongs with the data. By embedding these fine-grained rules directly into the data layer, the protection becomes persistent. It becomes universal. It's completely independent of whatever application is trying to access it. It doesn't matter if it's a web app, a mobile app, a reporting tool, or just someone running a direct SQL query. The rules are always, always enforced.
And that brings us to a final, really important question for today. We now live in a world of distributed systems, of microservices, of these incredibly complex application stacks. So in this new landscape, is centralizing security at the data layer, that philosophy pioneered by VPD, is it still the ultimate safeguard? Or does the nature of our modern architecture demand a totally different approach? It's definitely something to think about.